Okay, I tried to record this video earlier in the day. I don't use my GoPro very often. It was a gift from my wife. So this is an intro video. I'm going to try and join the Prepper Content Creators. My name is James Nickens. I'm a retired CW4. Earlier in the video that I recorded, or so I thought, I did a tour of my property, but that's not going to happen because it's dark now. I'm retired CW4. I did 2 combat tours to Iraq. First time with 3-2 Striker. We went to Samara and then up to Mosul, and then the second time with 1st Cavalry Division. So I'm going to talk a little bit about austere living environments, and basically if the grid goes down or some other severe catastrophe, you could be looking at something like a permanent camping trip. So the austere living environments, one of the things about when I was in Iraq, 720 plus days in combat zone, is all but 3 nights of that I had somewhere to sleep. Sometimes it was a tent, sometimes it was a building, but for the most part, one of the things about being in a military zone is, the Army takes care of your bullets, the Army takes care of your beans, your food, and for the most part your shelter, which is something that won't be the case if things go really bad. Now, one of the other things that is critical is noise and light discipline, and then, which military people know about. And then when we were in Iraq, when I was in Iraq the first time, I went literally 3 weeks without getting a real bath. We took what was called whore baths when we had the time and it was safe, but that's literally washing your face first, your pits, your groin, and then your feet in a bucket of water that is not very big, and well, let's just say it's not how you really want to live. But that's the kind of thing that you might be faced with in a grid down or shit hits the fan situation. Or the other thing is you'll have to learn how to sleep when you're not in your bed, fully clothed sometimes, because your boots won't come off. So I'm getting into this because I'm fully retired. I'm disabled from my time in the Army, and then I think I have some ideas and some things that I can put out there that might help people. So the first thing is I'm going to recommend a 3-book series. It's called 1 Second After. It's about an EMP attack on the U.S. and Western civilization, and it details the things and events that go through a retired full-bird colonel goes through. The reason that's a really good book in a series is it ends on a good note, but they have to go through a lot of terrible things, so it will give you a picture of what society can become like without the rule of law. And I'm talking about that because I don't think people really understand how awful people can be. So I have a good idea what it will be like. And so the second thing is you need to ask yourself a question, and it's a really big question. It's, do you want to survive? So I still struggle with that question because I haven't said no, but I don't know if I want to say yes. So I retired in 2012, and then around 2015, after working a lot, and basically I was reading survival reviews of survival gear, and I have bug out bags, they're not completely built because I don't have my wife completely on board with that. And the reality is, if we have to walk out of here, it's probably not going to end well because I don't have the strength anymore that I used to have. But because I haven't answered no since 2015, I've been actively buying gear. I plan to do videos. Mine are going to be more informational and the kind of videos that are going to give you guys hopefully some help. The first video I'm going to do after this intro, and I may add a tour tomorrow when the sun's up, but so that may be the first video, and then the second video will be about emergency power generation. So I have two systems. I have a Bluetti EB240 that I just purchased, but I purchased the portable solar panels, but they say not to let them get wet. So that's the first thing I would say is don't buy the package deal. Buy the EB240 power generation unit, and then buy aftermarket rigid solar panels, and then you have to buy the associated cables that go with that. Second thing is that power generation video is going to go over how to hook up a generator to your house. So there are some things that you're going to need to know, some things that are no-nos, and some other things about that is really cool. So one of the things about the tour that I recorded earlier, or so I thought, was I spent about the last week really hard working on what I call my generator hooch. It's where my generator is going to reside, along with some fuel, so that I don't have to pull it out, hook it up, turn it on, flip the breakers, do some other stuff. It will just be run the cord, turn it on, and flip the breakers. Right now it sits in one part of my property, and this place that I'm building is where it's going to reside all the time. So I don't have to move it, and then it's really going to be just run the cord, plug it into what I have installed in my house, turn it on, flip the breakers, and then turn on the breaker that you use to backfeed, so that it makes a good thing. So I will continue to prep until if I decide the answer is no. I'm reading notes just so you know. So I have an old house on more than half an acre, less than a full acre, in the country across the street from a lake, so that gives me a permanent water source. I have septic systems, so as long as I fill up the toilets, I will have a way to go to the bathroom. So my property is fully fenced, and I reside in Texas, and it's marked with purple paint. If you don't know what purple paint is, look it up. So right now I've been spending a lot of time on the generator hooch. Not too far from that is going to be where the propane tank that I plan to buy will go. And then in addition to that, I've been working on my wife's 1972 Dodge D100 pickup. Old 3 on the tree, now it's 3 on the floor. Points and condensers, and according to the doctor that Grayman had on, vehicles may or may not be affected by an EMP or coronal mass ejection, but older vehicles with less electronics have a much better chance of not being affected. So I'm in the middle of rebuilding that truck. Put about 10 to 12 grand into it. It came to us free. It used to be in Washington State, and then things happened. It's down here, and then last year it threw an end cap, and so it's been a long process. I spent half the day today working on it, getting it closer to being where we're going to start trying to start it. So old trucks are awesome because short of a bad wreck where you twist the frame, everything that's in them can be replaced. So most of my vehicles are old, with the exception of my wife's Jeep. I try to keep her in a nice vehicle. And then I have a 1996 one-ton crew cab dually Ford with a 460 in it, but it has a lot of electronics. So I also have an A350 van, 2013. I have aspirations for van life and kind of traveling the country. There are some places that are on my bucket list, but I'm not sure that will ever happen. And then I have a 2007 Mercury Grand Marquis. My wife has a 2018 Jeep Rubicon, and then we have motorcycles. So really quick about bugging out or bugging in. If you're in the city, you need to have plans to stay put for a while and the ability to do so, which would be really hard, because if your neighbors find out you have food, and they will, it won't go over well. So you kind of really need to have a place to go. So if you're in the city, you're going to be looking to bug out, I think. If you're in the country, then you're going to be looking to bug in. Two completely different scenarios. So most of the prepping channels talk about this. Preparedness is not about a singular event, but it is also specialized and specific to regions. So real quick, if you live in the mountains and the Rockies area or anywhere where there's brown bears or grizzly bears, then your bang sticks need to be something that can also deal with the apex predator in your area. Mountain lions, black bears, grizzlies, brown bears, deer will even get you during the rut. So there's a lot of things to consider. In a later video I will go over what kind of bang sticks I think you need to have and why. I'm also going to do a video on fire and my bug out bags and the way I've packed them and why. The power generation is the one that I think I can offer a lot of information to people over. And then we are heavily gardening this year. This video earlier today would have shown my garden is kind of overgrown. I had something come up where I got busy and I couldn't, I kept it watered, but I couldn't maintain it like I should have. We have a solar array from several years ago, and then this year we got into chickens. So the solar array now serves as a chicken run, and then there's a chicken coop inside the chicken run. Utilization of space. So we have 11 chickens. Started with 5 originally, and then we got 13, and we're down to 11. So there are issues that you need to pay attention to. We had one, I think, that may have frozen to death or died after the freeze, and then one, I don't know where it went because we had 4, and then I found 3 and stepped on one because they were in a part of the yard that I couldn't see. So we're down to 2, and then out of those 2, one disappeared. I'm almost certain that a predatory bird got it, so I was told not to let them out, but I didn't want to keep them like restricted, so now I would tell you build a decent chicken run and keep them restricted, especially like here in Texas we have owls and predator birds. So the one chicken that was left, something scared him because I went out and found him, and then I didn't put him in the coop, but later on I went out, he was in the coop and he didn't come out for like a day and a half, and then we added some babies, and now we have 11. There one original out of the 5, I think a poisonous snake got him because I found him unfortunately dead. So gardening, solar array, chicken coop, chicken run, future shop, and closing the back porch eventually, generator hooch, older vehicles, older house across from the street. I can tell you I had the generator and everything set up to be able to be used. I never actually thought I would use it. We live in San Antonio. During this recent Texas freeze, that generator saved me and my wife and my father's ass. And then the fireplace that we have provided heat. So the generator I have can run at 6,200 watts generating power. It's about 50 amps. It has a 30 amp plug on it. That 30 amp plug to my house powered 2 full-size refrigerator and freezers, 1 deep freeze, the stereo unit with speakers, the TV, lights when we needed. Lights when we needed them. Space heater at night, and 1 bedroom because the living room stayed relatively warm. And then, but it would not power the coffee pot or the microwave, so I had a second generator that I used primarily when I was hunting that I would crank up to run the coffee pot or the microwave. So on my list of things to get is a bigger generator that can handle more amperage out. But time being wise, I've ordered a Century Fuel adapter system to convert my current generator to liquid propane or natural gas and retain the gas capability. So, which is the big push with the Texas power grid the way it is right now. We've already had power companies screaming, conserve power for like twice for like 5 days, and we aren't even into the heat of the summer. So, if you don't know the history behind that, they had green power come in and subsidized by the government so they could sell it cheaper, so they shut down, put out of business gas plants that were producing electricity, and then during the freeze, the solar and the wind, it didn't work. So that was a self-inflicted sucking chest wound, as we call it in the Army. So the last thing I'm really going to touch on, as this is a re-recording, our second recording, is once you start down this path of prepping, be careful because it can get overwhelming. It can get depressing because you'll be constantly thinking about the things you need to do, the things you need to spend money on, the things you need to buy. And all I will tell you is I started hard doing this in 2015. And it was majorly bags and gear and sleeping bags and hatchets and knives. I have bang sticks. I hunt and I fish. I haven't fished in years, but I know how to fish and I know how to hunt. I hunt primarily wild boar, but the issue is, and I've been on several prepping channels in the chat and basically trying to share with people that you need to do what they talk about. You need to actually practice these skills. You need to actually use your gear. So I don't do well in the heat. I don't know if my thermostat's goofy after Iraq or what, but I tend to sweat too much. So I sweat so much